That
There's a bit of a
one,
theme here, isn't there? Should we stop calling 3x pot on the river?
well, you would think, wouldn't you? But I'm not. I'm not. I'm just not. Like, anyway, moving on. Thanks, Ben. Prick. Right, so this one is one of the most interesting parts I've played. This has been in a highlight video. You guys might recognize it. I think I did a short as well. So we open A7 suited in, I guess, middle position. Standard, right? Always opening
Yeah.
suited aces. Small blind calls, who I believe is a reg, you said?
Yeah, this is a BitBee's coach, George.
Okie dokie. And what kind of range are we calling from the small blind, do you think? Keep in mind we're 200
Suited
deep here.
A, yeah, to be honest, 200 deep, I'm not hugely familiar, but the general cold call range is going to be like suited aces, some middling pocket pairs, some 10-9, Jack 10 suited, maybe even hands like jacks and tens when you're this deep.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I think like ace 6, ace 7, ace 8 suited, and those kind of hands, similar to the one you have.
Okay. Big blind gets out the way, so we do go heads up.
Yep.
10-8-5, couple of hearts, villain checks, and we have our first decision point.
Yeah, interesting. I think checking and betting are both fine. Sizing's quite interesting here because I do think that they flop sets always on this board, as do you. You do have mostly an overpair like advantage. I think they may have jacks. I don't know if they have queens. Probably not. I think the sizing, I feel like it's going to be a relatively low frequency C bet, and I don't think it's going to be for massive, and I don't think it's going to be for small. So I think maybe like half pot some of the time with range, and combo you can just kind of go either way. I don't mind betting always if you want to do that with this hand.
Yeah, I thought in game I was just always going to bet all of my nut flush draws, 200 deep, just on the off chance we can, because we can cool a lot of other hearts basically. I think that I'd rather bet then with ace 7, ace 6, ace 4 than let's say ace jack, ace queen, although I've got an overcard with it. I'm just betting all my nut flush draws here, I think.
Sure, fine.
Size wise, I can't remember what I chose. We went half pot. This felt kind of
right.
Yeah,
this is the sizing I would go for.
Okay, happy days. And I remember saying on stream, I said, I'm almost excited at getting raised here. And villain raises. And I said, almost.
You got what you wish for.
So yeah, what are we doing here?
There will be 3 bets on this flop, but your hand will just not 3-bet, I don't think.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I don't think I'd want to 3-bet this in position. It doesn't really seem like it makes that much sense for me. In terms of what we would 3-bet for value, where do we start with our 3-betting range? Are we 3-betting some hands that want protection as well, like jacks, queens, kings, stuff like that?
It's really dicey versus small blind cold call on this range, on this board, sorry, to start 3-betting hands like queens and jacks. I think at 100 big blinds, it's totally fine. When you're this deep, I think you need to proceed with quite a lot of caution. So I think the bottom of the value range is going to be probably pocket 5s, if not 10-8. But I think 10-8 does block the calls, but also double blocks the sets. So around that region, pretty narrow though.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I wasn't going to 3-bet this hand anyway. We do call. Yeah. Turn comes a complete brick, and villain overbets.
I think you're absolutely fine to call. I don't want to shove because you're just only going to get called by sets. And I think that George is going to have loads of Jack 9 here, Queen Jack of Hearts, but mainly those combos I think are going to be the first hands to be raising, to be betting. Sorry, and then maybe a hand like I'm trying to. If I'm honest with you, I don't think that George would be kind of taking, let's just say, like more creative hands as like this line. So a hand like Jack 10 or 9-8 of diamonds or something like that. I just don't see him ever doing this. I do see some players doing it. I don't really see George doing it, to be honest with you. So I'm happy just to call because I think we're ahead like a decent amount of the time. And also we will cooler him when hearts come, when he has combo draws as well.
That was my exact thinking. I figured villain. I don't know enough about him. I think I had him tagged as good reg, solid reg, if I remember. I remember thinking he's obviously polar here with the sizing. I figured we are either against the set or we're just ahead here.
Yes.
And obviously we have equity against the set, so I figured never folding. Raising does seem out the question because then he just gets to fold his worst hands and call his better. So do just peel and ding, ding, fucking
baby.
ding. absolute stones on the river. How do you think
Yeah.
Villain should play his range from here on this river?
Blocks only, I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think that like as their set is now worth no more than 1/3 pot, they probably have a disadvantage in nut flush as well because they don't always check raise it. Admittedly, you don't always see bet it, but you always call the turn, and they don't always bet the turn. So you just have nuts here way more than they do, and especially this deep. To hemorrhage versus a range that has more nuts than you is like a complete EV torch. So I think that they're only going to have very small sizes.
Okay, and in terms of
I have
checking,
no idea what the sim says here, by the way.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you
no,
tell
I
me.
think I've never really looked at 200 deep either. I did for this hand afterwards. I
Oh,
was
okay.
thinking, I might in his position because I guess we want to play some checks here as well, right? Or are we just betting like, are we blocking all our value? Would you say our value starting at let's say fives or maybe the two combos of 10-8?
Five definitely. 10-8 suited, maybe
Yeah,
not.
that's a thin one. Yeah, agreed.
But like, yeah, it's around that. It's around that region for sure.
Okay. Villain does bet and goes for half pot, which I remember thinking
Okay.
I didn't like the size from Villain. Obviously, I'm not studied in 200 deep or whatever, but
Sure.
I thought like blocks would make a lot more sense with the sets and stuff like
Yeah.
that because like, am I really gonna call kings no heart here or something like aces? Like I can just kind of fold.
Yeah.
He's only like, what's he realistically gonna have? Maybe some Jack 9 suited, some Queen Jack suited as bluffs, like
Yeah. So
non-heart.
honestly, when I see this, I'm almost certain that this is a greedy flush because half pot is such an unconventional sizing here because it's so obvious that a set is not worth half pot. When you have just like loads of flushes because you have like Jack 9 of hearts, Queen Jack of hearts, etc., etc. So I would just guess this is going to be like a King 8 of hearts, maybe, or a King Queen of hearts or something like that most of the time.
Okay. So with that being said, what are you doing here? Obviously, we don't have a decision with our hand. We have the nuts, we're all in.
Yeah.
What are you doing
Yeah.
here with smaller flushes? What are we doing with sets? What are we doing with overpairs?
Calling all other flushes apart from this one. Sets probably folding versus the half pot. I just think the half pot is such a telegraph of strength of hand that I would not call anything. I would call like some king high flushes probably, I guess, because you can beat some flushes. Even that, I'm on not even joking, like a queen high flush here is kind of dicey. And then I'm just going to bluff shove pocket aces with a heart every single time.
Yeah. I remember thinking that in game because I even said in the stream, I was like, it's so obvious I'm going to have the nuts here. And I was like, no, I could have,
Yeah.
I said I could have ace 10 with the ace of hearts and aces with the ace of hearts. Ace 10 with the ace of hearts, I'm probably folding the turn. Even though I block some more of his value when I have ace 10, I block 10-8 and I'll block pocket 10s. No, maybe I would call. I think ace 10 to some degree is a better call than aces.
I don't know because with ace 10 you do block 10s, but also with the ace of hearts you block ace 3 and ace 4 of hearts, which is pretty unideal.
Yeah.
But then again with aces you unblock 10, so yeah, you could be right.
Yeah, and maybe if he does have jacks, if he did take this line with jacks on flop and turn at least,
True.
Maybe
True.
I don't know. Either way,
it's conceivable.
Yeah, either way we shove, obviously, and we do get called, and this is the biggest part I've ever played, which is why you guys would have seen it.
Oh wow!
And so, I mean, what are you expecting to see here? I guess it's kind of obvious.
Flush.
Yeah, and Villain does have king high flush, so happy days.
Absolutely,
Big
I'm completely shocked at the result of this hand.
Yeah. Something that was interesting, obviously we're not doing any solver analysis and stuff like that, but I did plug this into GTO Wizard and had a look. And with the line, we're actually folding a7 suited on the turn sometimes.
I guess the 7 of hearts blocks and bluffs, or the ace of hearts blocks and bluffs.
Yeah, it was a really weird one where I think King 9 did overbet, but not all other bluffs did. And I think
right, interesting.
It was a spot where I think the second nut flush draw overbet. In our shoes, the nut flush draw would fold, and so then he could. But we'd call some like combo draws. It was a very, very strange one.
Right,
but
okay,
I was
that is a
super
weird
surprised.
one. That is a very weird one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, biggest
Nice
part
hand.
I've ever played.
Beautiful hand.
Yeah, happy days. On to the next one. Right, so moving on, I cannot remember this hand. I must have tagged it earlier today or whenever I was tagging them, but I can't actually remember it. Well, it's not off to a good start. So, under the gun 3Xs, do you know this player? I'm going to assume he's a rec.
No, I don't actually. I do recognize the name. I think there might be a reg, and I think you should fold.
Yeah, I just looking back on it now, I'm like, I agree. So you wouldn't consider this is ACR again, so lower rake than say GG, but you wouldn't take that into consideration, just folding?
Not versus 3x and versus MP. Versus button, you can maybe justify it, but versus MP, no. But I like being in the weeds, so let's run it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. That's my excuse. So we do call and flop pretty well here. Pair and a flush draw. Check, face a half pot, see bet, which half pot's all right on this board, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I think you can play over bet or check here as well in these positions,
Yeah, you can
maybe.
do pretty much anything. Yeah,
Yeah,
you can
fair
do it.
enough.
Yeah, position.
I
Yeah, I
go
think folding's
just
great.
yeah, okay. I don't really
Yeah,
like raising this hand on this board. I think I'd rather raise just I don't know, king nine of spades, just anything. I
yeah.
think most of my 6x of spades are just going to call here. Even a6 of
Yeah, I
spades,
think
I don't
in
see much
a
reason.
good rule of thumb here is like thinking about your visibility versus realization. So like your visibility is so good, and what I mean by that is that when you call the flop, like when they bet and you call, you know that there's not a pretty much a single turn in the deck that they're going to be able to blow you off your equity. So usually in those situations, you would choose to call rather than raise because your visibility is so high. Whereas if you have a hand like 5-3 of spades, there are like half the deck or whatever, you're just gonna be check folding a turn. So that one's just much more incentivized check raising than this one.
Fair enough, makes a lot of sense. So I do call, turn a flush, happy days. I'm not going to
Maybe donk
lead
the
here
turn.
ever. I don't think I would on the high card. I don't know if there should be leads here.
It's an interesting one because you definitely do get to the turn with king queen like a lot of the time. You also just do have more low flushes than in position. I think this is probably a spot where you get to lead, but I don't know about frequency. I think sizing will be tiny. But equally, I don't know how much EV you're going to gain by donking the turn here, so I'm happy just to check.
I would agree. I think in spots like this where I'm either unsure of frequencies or if we lead, I've said this a long time when newer players were talking about donks and stuff. I don't think I might be wrong, but I don't think there's that much EV overall in leading, especially on boards like this.
Sure.
So I don't think you lose much EV from just checking, especially against certain opponents that are going to barrel hands that maybe theoretically they shouldn't anyway. So in spots like this, if I'm unsure, I'm just going to check. Villain goes for half pot again, and then we have a decision. So raise or call.
That's half pot. I think I would raise this combo a decent amount of the time here. I think versus half pot here, you do get to raise more. As I said before, you do probably have an advantage in flushes. Equally, exploitatively, I don't really want to give imposition just like a really, really easy time here with like two pair or a straight or a set, just to like kind of bet turn and then check back river, especially when they've gone this sizing on the turn. By the way, I don't think the sizing on the turn is bad at all. I think it's fine. But I much prefer, if I had an option between calling and raising, I would always raise.
Okay. I have no idea what my thought process was. I can barely remember this hand. So we've just gone with a call. I think either is fine. I think versus bigger bets, I would just call. Versus like a quarter pot or third pot, I think I'm leaning to always raise or raising like the majority of the time. Do call, and river comes a queen, which is very interesting. Any leads now?
Yeah, I probably would. Oh, yeah.
I think this is a good hand to lead, right? If we do have leads.
It is a good hand to lead, but it's whether or not you get to lead on this card. Like, do you have more kings here than in position? My assumption would probably be no. Reason for that is that versus half pot, you're probably folding king jack offsuit unless you have a spade in your hand.
Unless we have the king of spades.
Yeah, so that means you only have the king of spades, which is either a flush or a straight. And I don't think you just have many of those combos. You fold king jack, you fold king 10, you call king queen, true, and you don't have ace king. And then your other suited kings are all flushes. So I don't think you get to donk this river, no. I think in position you're just going to have king 7 of hearts or something like that. Or maybe not that wide, but like, I don't know, a king spade 10 or something like that.
Okay. I do decide to check, and villain shoves.
The fuck? I think now we're completely under repped exploitatively. It's very, very hard for them to have a bluff, though. Extremely hard to have a bluff.
They just have
it's
to
like
have an airball.
literally
Pocket 8.
Yeah, but it's like
with a spade.
What's a premium bluffing card here? They'd have to have like pocket twos or pocket threes with a spade or something like that, and you block one of those with your three of spades. Honestly, I would call just based on your line. Like your line is not screaming strength. Yeah, I think I would just call, to be honest. You block flushes, you block king six of spades. Just yeah, I probably would call.
So that was my thought in game. I was like, well, I think I just said on the stream, I was like, I'm just not folding a flush here. With the way the action's gone, the fact that I've just called flop and turn under wrapped. Then I don't know. In hindsight, I don't know much about this player, and I've seen some ridiculously aggressive players in the ACR pools. Didn't know much about this guy. From I've moaned a lot about people's tendency to bluff on the river. Just seems super super low, and I just don't think there's ever a hand that isn't a higher flush that's shoving. I can't really think of one. Like you say, something like deuces or threes with a spade. Who's finding those bluffs? Like, I think your average player in these pools. This was a while ago as well. Now
I think people will find those bluffs for what it's worth. Definitely, they will find them. But you do have the three of spades, which is probably and arguably the worst card you could hold.
Yeah.
Because you can't have the deuce of spades.
Yeah, that's fair. So I call, and surprise, surprise, we lose to the nut flush, which I'm kind of expecting.
Such a greedy, greedy, greedy shove on the river, and it's gone so badly, so well for them.
Yeah, I don't really get their shove. I mean, if they're using like just a big sizing, I'm gonna shove. Not this hand, but I'm gonna shove a lot of the hands that are gonna call a shove anyway. Like, I actually think there's now argument to fold this, whereas if they bet like pot. Even just like 125% pot, I'm not folding in a million years. So I don't know.
Yeah, this is a disgraceful one.
Yeah, I felt hard done by this one. I'm not gonna lie. But I think in hindsight, against the player, because I remember thinking afterwards I should just fold because I don't think he has anything but a flush. But well, we live and learn. Right, ace king we open. See a 3-bet from small blind, and the action is on us. Do you know this player?
I've only seen them the past couple of days, actually, so I don't know them.
Okay. What do we think here?
4-betting and calling, whatever you want to do.
Okay. So 4-bet or call, you mean?
Yeah, 4-bet or call.
Okay, either's fine. I've gone for the 4-bet here.
Yep.
And villain calls. And king 10-4.
Villain range bet.
Yeah, range bet. Size all right at third on this board?
Yeah, that's good. Or... It's nice, like, I think King Eye board's so premium for you. You can just do 1/3.
Okay, villain calls. 4 of clubs on the turn. 4 of diamonds on the turn, sorry. And we have less than pot. What are we going for here?
I think I would want to be using small sizes. Not because I want to value bet. Actually, well, maybe 1 second. Maybe you do just play shoves actually on this turn. But like, I'm just thinking of like hands like ace queen and ace jack. Like, what do you want to do with those hands? Like ace jack suited, ace queen offsuit. Do you want to start betting small again? Because like your value range here is so well defined. You don't want to be value betting jacks and tens, jacks and queens, right? You're going good king X plus, and it's like less. It's like 0.8 SPR.
If I'd have gone smaller on the flop, do we think that then, because we're probably playing 1.2, 1.3 SPR, then we're starting?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's more merit to going smaller, because then you may be like, because then versus under the gun versus small blind 3-bet, a hand like king queen now becomes a bit too thin to shove 1.2 pot on the turn. And if you still want to build that into your betting range or your value region, because it is a value hand, but maybe it's not worth all in for 1.2x pot, then you can start using a smaller sizing and building around the king queen, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree. So I actually think I should go smaller on the flop just so I have more playability on turn. I normally do that, especially in 4-bet parts. I think just here, because I just smack this board and it's just too good for me, I just thought I'll go a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
But
I wouldn't get caught up. Don't kind of like trick yourself into thinking that you needed to go smaller. I think you made the right sizing on this particular board because it's such a good board for you.
Yeah.
And now what I would say is like, if you want to play shove check, which I think is the line, now I've been thinking about it a bit more, this is the first combo you want to shove because you block king 10, which they don't have admittedly, but you block kings and also you unblock clubs, which you're just going to have to call the flop, the turn, sorry. So you could maybe check back ace king with the ace of clubs here.
Yeah. No,
Gut
I
feeling.
do go for the small bet here.
Okay.
Which I mean I think is kind of
It
fine.
can never be bad. It can never be bad.
In terms of when you say shove or check as well, are we shoving some like ace? Like what about something like ace jack offsuit? Maybe we don't have ace jack offsuit. Ace queen offsuit.
You have ace jack suited and then you have ace queen offsuit. I don't know what you want to do with ace queen. I think you probably want to shove ace queen that like blocks the king and unblocks a nut flush draw.
I do go for the small bet and villain shoves. Which what do we think about him shoving there? Should he just play calls for his range, or is the hands that just want to get it in there?
I think it makes some sense, especially if you have a hand like king queen, as I said. If they have a hand like pocket aces, I don't think they because they're going to fold queens and jacks on the turn, right? It blocks the bluffs. I think they probably maybe just want to continue via all in. If they have pocket tens, like they're coolering a king and it doesn't give you an opportunity to check back on a bad
Yeah,
river. And also your range is so well defined. And I don't think they make a great deal of money from your bluffing region anyway.
yeah.
So I think shoving is, yeah, totally fine from them. And it looks like they have aces, is what I'm going to say.
I call. They don't have aces. The river comes a club.
King X of clubs.
No. Oh, we run it twice,
Okay.
but we lose both.
So
Sigh.
it's a good shot from them on the turn. Unblocks all your calls.
Is there
It's
is their play
extremely.
okay overall?
I mean, pre-flop is going to be very low frequency. 5-4 suited, I think, is like one of the lowest versus under the gun in the small blind.
Hmm.
Flop, they can play check raise or check call, and then turn. I think, yeah, they unblock the bet call. So why not?
Fair enough. Here we've got ace four of diamonds. We open under the gun and we get 3-bet here.
Yeah,
What we got?
I think so I know this player. I know this person in real life actually as well. You have probably a fold mostly, and then maybe a sliver of 4-bet. And we are a bit deeper, so I think these suited aces do go up in 4-bet value. I wouldn't. I'm not really a fan of calling this combo, to be honest, from under the gun, but I wouldn't mind 4-betting it sometimes.
Okay, fair enough. What do we think of Villain then? I mean, if you know him in real life, you obviously can't give him shit now.
Yeah,
So good.
solid player. Has played for a long time, and has done a lot of battling in the past. Yeah, just a pretty solid player.
Okay, fair enough. I do go for the 4-bet here. I probably would
Good.
have rolled for it. I think in these positions I
Yeah.
wouldn't have gone for call, so I think I would have mixed between 4-bet or fold.
Okay, good.
I definitely would now, but going back, this may have been, I think this is about 6 months ago, this hand. Villain calls, pretty good board for us. How are we constructing
Yeah.
our range here? What are we doing on this board? Range betting or?
I think we want to be using half pot because this is a very, very low, relatively disconnected board that doesn't really hit in position all that much. They do have sixes, they do have nines, so they don't have deuces. And then we just have like a pretty big overpair region. I wonder whether or not I think you can go anywhere between 1/3 and 1/2 on this board. And I would probably go half pot on this board.
Okay, let's see what we did. I cannot remember. Went a third, yeah. I think I prefer half pot now that you said it. Villain against 1/3. Are they just having like all in?
I think there will definitely be small raise and shove, not just one or the other.
Okay. Villain calls, apparently.
Yeah.
Turn is an offsuit jack, and
Yeah.
we're playing like what, 1.2 SPR now, something like that. Now what?
I think I'm going to shove the turn. The reason for that is that queens is already going to be indifferent in theory, and it's going to be even more overfolded in reality. You also potentially get some like, well, not potentially, you definitely get like a lot of 5-out hands to fold. A hand like 7-6, for example. You probably don't get them to fold ace queen of clubs, but I think there's a small chance in reality you do for this SPR. So if you're making all of those hands fold and you're only really ever going to get called by sets and pocket aces and then the occasional pocket kings as well, I think you just massively over realize here. And also, obviously, you do have equity. When I say over realize, I mean you over realize on your fold equity.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. And I remember looking at this board when I was tagging this hand and thinking, I thought if I shove this, I'm kind of having way too many bluffs. But I'm probably not realistically because I can just have queens plus right for value here.
Yeah, and then you got like nut flush draws, very, very. You got like only the ace 4, ace 5, and then some ace 10, ace queen of clubs and of diamonds.
So are we saying with ace
Which is,
king
yeah.
of both suits, are we checking ace king of diamonds and clubs?
When you say of both suits, do you mean of diamonds and clubs, or one diamond, one club?
Ace king of diamonds and ace king of clubs.
I think ace king is the combo that you can kind of go both ways with. I
Okay.
do think shoving it is still very, very good, though, for the reasons I said before.
Yeah, fair enough. Makes a lot of sense. Cannot remember when this hand was, what I was playing. I bottled it and went for the check.
Yeah.
And villain goes really small.
Again, you could shove because I think this is going to be over bet folded because it's going to be under bluffed from out of position. But obviously you can call because you're getting nearly 7-1 and you got a nut flush draw.
Yeah. So I think I just bottled it. I think this was actually this might have been one of the first, maybe not one of the first sessions, but quite early on in playing 1K, because I'd obviously only started playing maybe a year ago or something. Maybe I was just a little bit scared. I don't know. I do think shoving the turn much better because of what we're getting to fold. As played, I think I prefer call. I don't think I want to check shove just because I don't know how often they're folding. And we ding the nuts on the river, or the effective nuts, which is
definitely
nice.
check the river now.
Yeah,
No
I figured
donks, for sure.
There's just no need to donk shove here. Want to keep obviously potential bluffs in. What is villain? What do you think villain should be bluffing with here? Some hands like ace queen of clubs, or just like what can they bluff with realistically?
I think they should bluff 7-8, 6-5. If they can have those combos, because those just have no showdown on the diamond, I think. I mean, you might say that they have like some showdown against nut flush draws, but I think that like backdoor nut flush draws are just very, very likely to bet the turn. But it'll be some kind of like one pairs.
Yeah.
And then also like an ace king offsuit probably as well.
Yeah,
with a diamond, like king diamond, ace of hearts or something like that.
Yeah, we check. Villain shoves. We are extremely happy. And we get shown.
Jacks.
Aces.
Oh, we got so lucky, bro.
Yeah, we did.
Well, like every single point where I wanted to pile in money, it would have just gone terribly. And this is just great for the orange line, this one. So fair play.
Yeah, so happy days. Something I did want to say about the turn is I wasn't really thinking about shoving. I think at the time I was thinking about just betting because, again, when you saw the last hand when I was betting small, when I could have shoved with the ace king, I think I was more just... I wasn't really shoving over pot ever, in 4-bet pots. So I remember thinking here, well, I'd like to bet a third, but the double flush draw, then I might get jammed on. I sort of figured it was between bet small or check. And I think betting small is bad.
For what it's worth, I think in theory, this is going to be half pot and all in on the turn. There definitely won't be small bets. And the reason for that is that because you're pushing equity with like your advantage here, you just don't need to have small bets. Because if a hand is worth a bet, it's worth half pot or all in.
Yeah.
So
makes sense.
That's what I would just say about this spot.
Okay, fair enough. Well, at least we got lucky in one. So on to the next.
Yes. Well, you did want to win a 4K pot as well.
Well, yeah, but
it wasn't lucky though. It's flush with flush.
Pure skill.